This radio can be bought on Amazon or eBay and costs less than $500. And this name brand radio, made by JVC, costs $1,399. They look similar and have some of the same features, but why does a JVC cost so much more? Is it that much better? And here's an even better question. Is the cheaper one superior? Now, we cut this video before, and I have to admit there were things about the Andriod radio that I did not know. And some of the comments were very informative to us because the manual that comes with this radio does not give a lot of information, and tech support is only done through email, and it takes some decoding to try to figure out what the message says because of the language barrier. So we are thankful for all the comments that helped us understand the Joing radio much better. So we decided to recut this video again now that we know much more about it. And although I'm still biased, I will attempt to remain neutral so that you can decide for yourself which is better for you. All right, with that out of the way, let's get into the comparison. We will be looking at the Joing Andriod 10. This is an 11.6 floating panel screen versus the JVC KW-Z1000W, which is a 10.1 inch screen. We'll list off the features for each stereo, unbox, and demo side by side against each other. All right, so let's get moving, starting with the Joing. Now, this is an 11.6 inch monitor, 1920 by 1080, octa-core, 1.8 gigahertz with a 24-bit high-performance processor. Now, this does have wired and wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, built-in Bluetooth, and a single backup camera input, along with a single audio-video input. Now, this has 5-channel RCA pre-outs, front, rear, and sub, which we tested at just under 2 volts because it wasn't listed anywhere on their site and it didn't mention anything in the manual. Now, this has an optical output, which I'll go over in detail a little bit later, and also an SPDIF output. The internal amp is 4 channels, and we tested 15 watts a channel because, again, it was not listed on their site nor in the manual. This has a 16-band EQ with time alignment and adjustable crossovers. Steering wheel button adapter ready. Adapter is sold separately, and on this radio, you're able to download the Torque app as you would on any Android device, which will allow displaying of your car status through the OBD2. Now, that part is sold separately. And thank you for the comments that brought that to our attention because we did not know that the first time around. And this particular radio that we have here is a single DIN, but they do make it in a double DIN as well. Next, the JVC KW-Z1000W. This is a 10.1 inch capacitive touchscreen, 1080 by 720, with their optical bonding display that reduces glare from the sunlight. Plays high resolution FLAC and WAV files up to 24-bit/192 kilohertz. Built-in HD tuner. This also has wired and wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It does wireless mirroring for Android, and it can mirror your iPhone as well, but you will need to use that through the HDMI input. And of course, this radio does have Bluetooth. Audio features include a 13-band graphic EQ and a 9-band parametric EQ with digital time alignment. K2 technology improves the digital sound for all music sources. This radio is Sirius XM radio. Now, the satellite tuner is sold separately, and your inputs include a single USB, rear AV input, as mentioned, an HDMI input, and 4 camera inputs. Now, outputs include rear AV output, 6-channel pre-outs, 5 volts, front, rear, and sub, but we actually tested it and it did over 5 volts. Also, dual zone audio controls. So if you have rear entertainment, you can make those rear speakers play that while you do something completely different in the front. Built-in internal amplifier, which is 22 watts RMS and 50 watts peak. And we actually did our own test and it tested out at 22 watts. Steering wheel control ready, adapter required. Okay, so let's do the unboxing, starting with the Andriod. Now, this is your Andriod box, so it's no frills brown box versus the JVC box that you get. Okay, of course, $1,400. So of course they're going to get you some nice packaging there with this because of the price point. Obviously, they want to keep it down, and it is pretty basic. All right, so let's check this thing out. This is our monitor. All right, so we have the 11.6 inch. All right, so it's nice and clean. There's no buttons. It's just basically like a tablet. On the back here, you have your ribbon cable. Move this out of the way. That plugs into here. And then I didn't know this, okay, but I should have just figured this out. But you can actually move these things. So it's defaulted in the middle. So if you move these tabs, it will move the screen either up or down. So thank you for all of those who pointed that out. I totally missed that. But there is some adjustment on here, and that is how you adjust it. All right, so this is the body. Here's your ribbon cable. Again, that plugs into the screen. And then these are where those tabs go. And then you can move this up and down. So you have a range of motion that probably starts around right there and then ends about right there. I don't see that you're able to move this out. So if there's a way that you can move this out, let me know. I took a better look at it and I just couldn't figure that part out. So, okay, if that's possible, leave a comment below so that we know how to do that. Okay, and the build quality on this is not very good, but again, I mean, this thing's under $500, so you can't expect it to be the same build quality as the JVC. Okay, but it is what it is. You have your separate Bluetooth mic, your USB, Wi-Fi antenna. We give you two of them, and GPS antenna. Okay? And then we have our main wire harnesses, and they do give you an extra couple of these clips here, just in case those things break, okay? Okay, so this does have an optical output, and I skipped over this feature in the last video because it's not too common, but I didn't give a full explanation, so I'll break it down this time around. So this is an important feature if you have amps or a processor that have those optical inputs. Now, an optical output is cleaner than RCAs and will not pick up electrical or engine noise, but it's not too common. And most times, this type of output won't be used because there just isn't a lot out there that supports optical outputs. It's because the car audio industry just has not accepted it widely yet. One of the reasons is because it's expensive to do and it would take a lot of cooperation with the manufacturers, and also optical cables are not as durable and not as flexible as RCAs. And because of those reasons, more than likely, most people will not use the optical output. AM/FM antenna input, and on this you have your SIM card input here, okay? So if you wanted to, let's say, have a SIM card that was live, you can pop that in there and then you can just get your internet that way versus using the hotspot on your phone. These are the Wi-Fi antennas here. And on this one, you have a dual USB. Microphone inputs on this side. Audio video input here. Okay, you have front, rear, and sub outputs, again at 2 volts. And the SPDIF output there. On here, you have some CAN cables and also the key cables, your main harness here, and your GPS antenna. Okay, let's get to the JVC unboxing. Okay, so these are your brackets, Bluetooth mic, USB extension, GPS antenna. So when you're using navigation with your smartphone, it uses that antenna for accuracy. You have your standard harness, owner's manual. This is the hardware that attaches the screen to the body. And these are chassis screws. And then this is a steering wheel control plug. Now, if you have an older vehicle, let's say 2000, 2001, 2002, let's say Toyota, and it's analog steering wheel controls, then this will work. But if it's a new vehicle and it's any type of data, this will not work, and you will need either a pack part or an access part in order to use the steering wheel controls. All right. This is your screen, a big, beautiful 10.1 inch screen. And here's your body. What you do is take your screen. It gets mounted like this. You got a couple of screws that you insert, and then again the panel goes over the top. So there is a depth adjustment here. So you loosen a couple of screws and this will actually move out 0.8125 according to their website. And then also there is the ability to have tilt, and on here you can adjust the angle from either -10, okay, or you can go +45. So it depends on where it's at in the dash. You can adjust that accordingly. And then also you have height adjustment. You just loosen these screws here, and then there's the ability to move this up and down about 1.5 inches. Okay, so now for the connections on the back. You have a recessed HDMI input, Sirius XM inputs here. Your iDataLink Maestro piece inputs are here and here. Your main harness is here. On the RCAs, you have front, rear, and sub. Again, these are 5 volt pre-outs. You have an AV input, and here you have your videos. You have the video in and the video output. On the top, we have our camera inputs. You have the front view camera, you have the rear camera, and then you have the third view camera. Now, if you want to use the fourth camera input, you're going to use the video in. And then you have the GPS input antenna. Okay, so we have the joint on the left, the JVC on the right. We're testing boot up time right now to see which one is quicker. All right, so we're fully loaded on the right-hand side on the JVC already. We're still waiting on the join. All right, so boot up time for the JVC is quicker than the joint. Okay, so let's take a look at these physically. Now, as far as the width and the height are concerned, they are the same height, but the joint is wider. And you do have a wider border around the JVC versus the joint, but the JVC has a huge plus, which are the buttons on the bottom. So you have your volume up and down right here on the front, so that's easy to get to. On the joint, there are no buttons on it. So in order to get to the volume, you have to go up top here, tap that, and then from here, you're able to adjust the volume. Okay, next, let's talk about audio control. On the JVC, you just simply tap audio here, and that takes you directly to your audio setup. On the joint, tap the button here, and then from here, you can go to the equalizer. So as far as EQ is concerned, they both have graphic EQs. The JVC does have a parametric EQ that you're able to get into and actually pick the frequencies in which you want to boost or lower, and you're also able to adjust the width. On the JVC, you can run your finger across the EQ spectrum and adjust very easily. The joint, you can't do that, so you have to actually grab one and then move it up and down. Okay, that's a nice feature on the JVC, so it's a little easier to adjust the equalizer. Next, let's talk about the crossovers. They both have two-way networking, which is basically you have low pass and high pass. But for your crossovers on the JVC, you simply go here and you can adjust your crossover points. Another thing you can do as well is you can adjust the slope. So you have your choice between a 6 dB per octave, 12 dB per octave, 18, and also 24. On the join, tap this button here. This takes you to your crossovers, and here you can adjust which frequency you want to cross over. There is no slope, so it's probably going to be a 12 dB slope. So you have your front and your rear here. On the JVC, you have front, rear, and then it gives you the sub here. So the same adjustments, the same crossover points for the sub. On the join, it has two bass enhancement controls. One is a crossover point, and the other one I believe to be a level adjustment. But below it, you have the same adjustments. So I'm not too sure why there's two. At first I thought maybe it's a subsonic filter, but they both show a less than symbol. And if it was a subsonic filter, it would probably show one as a less than and one as a greater than. And then also the frequency adjustment only goes as low as 57 Hertz. So that definitely wouldn't make sense for a subsonic filter because that's way too high. So if anyone out there knows why there is two sets of these adjustments, let us know. On the JVC, for us it's easy to understand, right? Because it simply says low pass frequency. Okay, perfect. And then it gives you the slope, and then it gives you the gain. Okay, next let's talk about time alignment. So here we're able to go and adjust, and here we're able to punch in the distance between, let's say, the driver's headrest and the left front speaker or the right front speaker, and so on and so forth. And you have either feet, okay, broken down into fractions or milliseconds. On the join, you have that feature as well. And you have just numbers that kind of symbolize, I guess, distance or maybe timing, but it doesn't necessarily say what that is. It doesn't say milliseconds, it doesn't say centimeters, it doesn't say millimeters. There's no measurement on that. So I'm not sure how you would actually adjust this with accuracy. Again, if you guys know how to do it, awesome. I looked on the internet, I looked on YouTube, I searched other forums, I couldn't find anything. So if anyone knows what these actually mean and how to actually set this up, go ahead and leave that in the comment section below. That will be greatly appreciated. Okay, another thing, we did talk about camera inputs on the JVC. You have 4 camera inputs. On the join, there is only 1. Here, you're able to assign the third view camera, and also you can use your video input as a camera as well. So I imagine that on the join, if you wanted to use the video input as a camera, you're able to do so as well. But if, let's say, you did want to put a front camera onto your join unit, you would have to go into this menu and hit AV, and then from there it would give you your front camera input. On the JVC, if you set this up to where it's front and you hit enter, what happens is when you pop it in reverse, the backup camera will come on. As soon as you put it in drive, the front camera will also come on if you select this front view camera. The reason behind that is if you are parallel parking, what it does is it moves that camera to the rear when you're going to reverse and to the front when you're in drive. So that's obviously a great feature versus on a radio that doesn't have that feature, you have to actually go into the menu and select AV in order for that front camera to come on. Okay, so let's talk about some features that Joying has that the JVC does not. Now it has this little button here, so if you tap this there, this will take you to a different menu. And from here, if you hit common, this will take you to a menu in which you can set up, and you can set up your most common apps or your most common settings. So in this case, I have YouTube here, so I want to go to YouTube, tap that. If I want to go to the audio settings, I just tap that and that directly goes to the audio settings. JVC does have a favorite button, which is here. So if I tap that there, then I'm able to get to, and I set this as the audio settings as a favorite button. So you have the ability to set up a favorite button, but this gives you a larger menu in which you can do more common features and more common apps. Okay, one other thing, just like any tablet, this does have tabs. So if I tap that button here, this will go back into the tabs that I was running in the background. And I can simply just go back to, let's say, YouTube. I can go there, opposed to, let's say, going back into here and then scrolling this way to get to it. Another thing that I'm seeing just right off the bat is the glare reduction on the JVC is outstanding. I don't see any glare whatsoever. On the Joying, there's lots of glare that's going on, and this room has very limited light, and I can see the glare. I can only imagine in the vehicle, the glare is going to be definitely a lot more intense. Now, when we were filming this video, you were able to see the light in the room reflect off of the Joying pretty bad, and on the JVC, it had virtually no glare, and that's because of the optical bonding display. So the optical bonding display is a layer that goes in between the touch panel and the LCD screen. Now you can probably buy an overlay for the Joying screen, but obviously that's not going to compare against the optical bonding that the JVC has to offer. Okay, so let's take a look at the actual picture quality on both of these screens. Now, the Android radio pixel count is 1920 by 1080, and the JVC is 1080 by 720, but the JVC is much clearer, much brighter, more cinematic than the Joying. And just because it has a higher pixel count doesn't necessarily mean that the picture is going to be better. There are different quality, different grades of LCDs, and obviously the JVC is going to have a better picture quality, a better screen than the Joying radio. But the JVC definitely has much more dynamic range than the Joying. So we have seen comments on our channel where people say, why are the pixel counts so low on the name brand radios, and on the Android radios they're much higher? But this is a great demonstration as to, hey, you don't necessarily need a high pixel count in order to get a good image. These are smaller screens. These aren't 50-inch, 75-inch, 85-inch screens that you hang in your living room. These are virtually, in this case, a 10-inch and an 11-inch screen that's right in front of you. So you don't need as many pixels in order to get a good picture. Okay, pros and cons, starting with the Joying. Pros, price point. Also, optical output. Being able to stream video directly on the radio is a plus, and a much lower entry point to get vehicle diagnosis on the screen with a Bluetooth OBD2 reader with an average cost of about 20 bucks. Okay, cons, no hard buttons for the volume, low voltage RCA output, lower power output on the internal amplifier, a single camera input, no HDMI input, and then the build quality on the chassis is not as good, and tech support is only done through email, and you have mounting options, but they are limited compared to the JVC. Now the JVC. Cons, no optical output, not being able to stream video apps from the radio, but you are able to mirror through your phone, and the price point. Now pros, optical bonding display for reduced glare reduction, hard buttons for important features like volume, more versatile mounting options, 5-volt pre-outs, graphic or parametric EQ, the 3-way networking option, easy setup for time alignment, 4 camera inputs, and the video playback is bright and vivid. Build quality is excellent. JVC does test and build their radios to work in highly stressful environments, so they are built to last. And finally, JVC tech support. So if you do run into an issue, you are able to talk to a person in the US in usually less than 5 minutes of calling their 1-800 number. So is the Android better than the JVC? Well, that's up to you to decide. I believe it really depends on your needs and wants along with your budget. Now, we received lots of comments on the last video with your opinions, so go ahead and drop your opinion in the comment section below. Also, this is an open conversation, so if there's anything you want to add that wasn't covered in this video, please let us know. And if you personally own either of these radios, let us know what you think about the radio that you own. Also, make sure to check out our website for any of your car audio needs at breakersstereoandperformance.com. That's going to wrap it up. We want to thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.